Mario Kart is all about speed, but what if we ignore that and try to avoid every single boost panel? Well, that's exactly what I'm here for today. We're going time trials, Yoshi of course, and we're going to see how many tracks we can finish without touching any of those evil, ugly boost panels. Yuck. The only rule here is, well, don't touch them. I'll be racing on 150cc, but I am allowed to switch to 200cc if necessary. And I'll only be deeming a track possible if all 3 laps are, since we're only given 3 mushrooms for our time trial, and also because you need to finish a race to even be able to finish the game to begin with. So, let's begin. Mario Kart Stadium is an easy first victory. Just make sure to not go near the red path and you are safe from all the boost panels. And Water Park is actually easier, as it contains a total of 0 boost panels. And the same goes for Sweet Sweet Canyon, there's not even 1 boost panel in sight. Thwomp Ruins is where it gets interesting again. However, as long as you don't drive on those walls, you're all good. Mario Circuit is next, and it once again has no boost panels, so it's an easy victory. Toad Harbor does have boost panels, and pretty nifty ones in fact. On this long slope at the end of the track, there's a few boost panels which you can't see until you're on the slope. However, just stay in the middle of the road and you'll be completely fine. Twisted Mansion is where our first real challenge is at. At the end of the underwater section, there's a split path with both paths having several boost panels at the end. These boost panels take up the entire width of the road, so you can't simply drive around them. But by using some very tightly timed hops with your vehicle, you can just barely jump over the boost panels and avoid them, deeming this track possible. Shy Guy Falls is unfortunately where we are forced to take our first unavoidable boost panel. Shortly after entering anti-gravity, we normally have to take this boost panel, which we obviously can't do. So I tried using a mushroom to maybe clear this gap, but Lakitu unfortunately keeps putting me back before the boost panel, so that doesn't work. Which unfortunately means that because we have to clear 3 laps, we have to touch a total of 3 boost panels in this track. Yikes. The boost panels at the updraft waterfall section are luckily easily avoidable, so that's good. Sunshine Airport is up next, and it doesn't fare any better than Shy Guy Falls. Right after going outside, there is a boost panel covering the entire width of the road, making it impossible to avoid it. At least you can barely avoid these boost panels by simply driving on the grass instead. So unfortunately, that's another 3 boost panels. Dolphin Shoals luckily doesn't have full width boost panels. It only has 1 boost panel, which is somewhat difficult to avoid, but just drive around it slowly and you'll be fine. Electrodrome has a total of 0 boost panels, so yeah, it's an easy W. Mount Wario does have quite a few boost panels to avoid. First of all, there's a large one inside the cave, but by just jumping into the pit below, Lakitu is nice enough to put you on a platform further ahead. Thanks, Lakitu. But the final lap is where the real pain begins. After the ski slope section, there's a lot of boost panels on this downward slope, and some of them take up the entire width of the track, so the only feasible way we could even do this is by jumping over them. But my god, it's nowhere close to easy to pull this off. And to make it even worse, the first jump you have to do is basically a blind jump because the boost panel literally appears at the last second. But after a lot of tries, I finally did avoid the first one. But the last 2 on this slope are sadly unavoidable. Or well, at least one is avoidable, but the other isn't. Either you jump over the first one and not the second one, or jump over the second one but not the first one. So unfortunately, that means at least 1 boost panel is impossible to avoid. But hey, at least it's only 1 in total for this track. That's pretty good. Moving on to the Special Cup, Cloud Top Cruise was a pretty smooth start. The only boost panel that could have been a problem is the one right at the beginning, but just simply jump off the road next to it and Lakitu put you on the road ahead. Thanks again, Lakitu. And Boat Ride Dunes is even easier because it has a grand total of 0 boost panels. Bowser's Castle has a boost panel in the room with the huge Bowser statue, which you can avoid by driving off the road. But there's another boost panel before the gliding section, which is way too long to even stand a chance of dodging it. So yet again, another forced 3 boost panels. And surprisingly enough, Rainbow Road only features very few boost panels on the main road. But since these boost panels toggle on and off, you can easily avoid them by just driving on the opposite side of the road. Starting off the retro courses, Moo Moo Meadows only has 1 ramp with a boost panel on it, but you can just drive around it and it's not even remotely a challenge at all. GBA Mario Circuit though does have a boost panel that's unavoidable. It really seems like you can avoid this one because of the thickness of the wooden panel it's attached to, but for some reason the collision of the boost panel goes the entire width of the path, so unfortunately driving over this one is inevitable, adding another 3 to our total. Cheap Cheap Beach does actually have a boost panel, but come on, we can easily avoid this one. And Toad's Turnpike has a load of boost panels on these walls and even on some vehicles, but none of these are required to drive across, so these are all very easy to evade. Dry Desert is, well, terrible, and to make it even worse, it doesn't even feature anything close to a challenge, so yippee, I guess. Thanks for wasting my time again, the worst track in the game. Donut Plains 3, unsurprisingly, doesn't feature a single boost panel. I mean, it's a SNES track, so what were you expecting? Well, how about N64 Royal Raceway? And oh boy, do I have something exciting for you! And the name of that something is Boost Panel. Because Royal Raceway is infamous for its huge jump over the lake, and well, this ramp actually features 2 boost panels. These 2 seem unavoidable at first, but by very carefully and very slowly driving on the grass to the side, you can just barely squeeze your way past and avoid these boost panels. Luckily, the rest of the track is pretty much panel free, so that's another victory. But unfortunately, 3DS DK Jungle is here to ruin the fun and break my short-lasted win streak. After about 5 seconds into the race, there's this big boost ramp which is sadly unavoidable. But can't you just use a tree nearby to jump over the boost panel, you might ask? Well, you can jump over it actually, but stupid Lakitu says no and puts us back in front of the boost panel. Even on 200cc, this is just not possible. Later in the track, there's also a couple of boost panels on these platforms, but either take the glide ramp to completely avoid them, or just jump off each platform to spawn back on the next one. So at least Lakitu is somewhat nice in his track, I guess. DS Wario Stadium might seem terrifying at first because it has a crap ton of boost panels on the whole track, but the only difficult one to avoid is the one at the start. But just drive very slowly and very carefully and you can avoid it pretty easily. The rest of the boost panels are all very small and therefore incredibly easy to avoid. Sherbet Land is pretty interesting. At the beginning of the track you can choose between 2 paths, the normal one and this one where you drive on the water. The underwater path has a bunch of boost panels, including one which takes up the entire width of the road, making it impossible to dodge, so make sure to take the normal path. The rest of the track is a home run. Now, Music Park also has a boost panel taking up the entire road, and avoiding that one can't be done, right? Oh, well, apparently it can. Yes, it's a very difficult jump to pull off, but it can be done, making this track boost panel free. And Yoshi Valley is completely devoid from any boost panels, making it an easy W. Tick-Tock Clock does feature a couple of boost panels at the beginning, but just drive around them and you'll be safe. Piranha Plant Slide has 2 boost panels taking up the entire width of the road, but by jumping at just the right time, you can just barely avoid these. But my god, it has to be insanely precise, and it was not easy at all. Grumble Volcano has a grand total of just 1 boost panel, but it is on an optional path higher up, so it's totally avoidable. And 64 Rainbow Road has 1 full width boost panel at the very beginning, but because this one is incredibly short, you can fairly easily jump over it and avoid it. The rest of the track has a few boost panels here and there, but none of them are hard to avoid at all, so this one is pretty straightforward. Yoshi Circuit is, well, Yoshi Circuit, and we all know this track by now. It is completely free of any boost panels, so there's no hassle here whatsoever. Excite Bike Arena is pretty easy as well. As long as you stay near the edges of the road in the second half, you'll be completely fine. Dragon Driftway surprisingly has not even a single boost panel, which kinda shocks me. But then there's Mute City, and considering this track is all about speed, this one is bound to have a bunch of boost panels. Most of them are really small and easy to avoid, but there's 3 in particular which are a big problem. The first one is at the end of the first section, and this one is sadly unavoidable. It doesn't matter whether you go 150 or 200cc, because this boost panel is at such a weird angle that it makes it practically impossible to avoid, regardless of when or how you jump. The second one is also at a pretty weird angle, but this time it's actually to our advantage. It's quite awkward to pull off and still not that easy, but by jumping at the right place and angle, angle, you can just barely avoid this one. The last one is quite weird because the finish line actually transforms into another boost panel after the first lap, but it's released to jump over, so don't get too worried. Wario's Gold Mine has two pretty nifty boost panels. The one at the start is pretty difficult to avoid since it's basically a blind jump you have to make, but by using a mushroom and jumping immediately after, you can just barely avoid it. There's also another one before the minecart section, however you can just simply jump off the track and Lakitu will put you ahead of the boost panel. Thanks Lakitu. SNES Raymer Road is very flat and completely devoid of any boost panels, and the same goes for both Ice Ice Outpost and Hyrule Circuit. Both of these don't contain a single boost panel. Baby Park is, well, it's Baby Park, and of course it doesn't have a single boost panel. I mean, what were you expecting? Cheeseland sadly has one unavoidable boost panel on this ramp here, and there's not even a single thing you can do about it. Wildwoods does have a couple of boost panels on these lily pads, but since these lily pads are so small, you can easily avoid them. The rest of the track is also no problem. Animal Crossing has one boost panel which looks like you can avoid it because of the wooden frame around it, but unfortunately the collision of the boost panel also covers the wooden frame, so this one is unavoidable. Neo Bowser City starts off the Bell Cup strongly, since it has no boost panels at all. River Road doesn't fare well though. There's two boost panels which pose a problem. The first one is at the end of the red section, but that one is pretty easily avoidable by jumping off the road at either side, since Lakitu always puts you on the green road ahead. But sadly, you can do the same thing for the end of the green road. There's walls around the boost panel and there's no way to jump over it, so this one is unavoidable. Super Bell Subway was relatively easy. As long as you stay on the main road and be careful with these boost panels at the end, you'll be totally okay. And finally, Big Blue. You can probably expect this one to have a bunch of boost panels, and it surely does. Most of these are easily avoidable though, since they're small and out of the way, but unfortunately there's also some that take up the entire width of the track. The first one is halfway through lap 1, and there's not much to address here, it's simply unavoidable. The second one at this lap gate looks like you can avoid it, but for some reason you can just barely not jump over it. It's almost like the collision of the boost panel stretches further than the visual, but whatever. Further down the track at the third lap gate you also have the exact same situation, but this time it is possible to avoid the boost panel. Why this one and not the other one? I don't know, but oh well. For the rest, this track is pretty simple. So that was it for the base game, but how about the booster course pass? There's 48 more tracks to try, so let's not waste any more time and get right back into the challenge. Paris Promenade gives us a very strong start, being possible without any boost panels. Toad Circuit is, well, Toad Circuit, and of course it's not gonna have... oh, there are some boost panels. Well, they're not really a problem at all. Just drive around them and you'll be all fine. Or if you're really desperate, you can wait for the glide ramp to rise from the ground, but have fun doing that, I guess. Especially while looking at the terrible graphics, like, let's be honest. And after that, I had a very long streak of easy tracks, which includes Choco Mountain, Coconut Mall, Tokyo Blur, Shroom Ridge, Sky Garden, and surprisingly enough, even Ninja Hideaway. Coconut Mall does have one thing to point out though. Near the end of the mall, you have a split path, the bottom having an unavoidable boost panel, so you want to take the upper one. But that one also has a seemingly unavoidable boost panel as well. However, by going on this sloped railing thingy on the side and jumping right at the end, you can jump over the boost panel relatively easily. Moving on from that, New York Minute was also really easy, and so were SNES Mario Circuit 3 and Calamari Desert. Waluigi Pinball unfortunately ruins our long win streak, with a total of 9 unavoidable boost panels across 3 laps, and sadly there's nothing we can do about this. See, I knew this track was evil all along. Sydney Sprint has a few boost panels on these race platforms, but luckily you can just drive around the platforms and avoid them completely. Snowland has a total of 0 boost panels, making for an easy W. Mushroom Gorge has 2 boost panels in a way, both of which you can easily avoid by jumping off the road to the side of them, so no worries. And Sky Eye Sundae, despite being entirely based on speed and tricks, doesn't even have a single boost panel, which kinda surprises me, but oh well. London Loop is a very long track, but regardless it doesn't have a single boost panel to worry about. And Boo Lake has a lot of wood, but no shiny golden boost panels, so that's great. Rockguard Mountain unfortunately has 1 unavoidable boost panel. Right after the tunnel, there's this small platform you go down before taking the glider, and this boost panel is just not small enough so we can jump jump over it. I tried quite a few times, but there was no success, so this one is sadly unavoidable. Maple Treeway also has one boost panel we can't avoid. There's one boost panel on this tree trunk that seems like a problem, but by simply jumping off the road, Lakitu will be kind enough to put you ahead. But obviously that one isn't a problem, because at the end of this treehouse there's a boost panel which is at a really weird angle, and unfortunately you cannot jump over it, even on 200cc. So yeah, this one is impossible to avoid. Berlin Byways is yet another long city track, but yet again it's really easy to avoid all the boost panels here. And both Peach Gardens and Merry Mountain were really easy to complete as well. But then comes 3DS Rainbow Road. This one has a bunch of boost panels to avoid pretty much everywhere. And I really mean everywhere. Around Jupiter, in this spinning vortex, on this ramp, even on this section with the floating asteroids. Most of these aren't difficult to avoid, but there's two boost panels in particular which are ridiculously easy to avoid, or just impossible. The first one is before the mushroom platform, and this one is actually barely possible to avoid. By using a mushroom and jumping off the road at the right, you can barely get Lakitu to put you on the track ahead. But this pretty much seems like a luck game whether it even happens in the first place. Sadly, this one at the end of Saturn's rings is unavoidable, and there's also no way to jump far enough to land on the platform ahead, or even to make Lakitu put you on it. So sadly, that's one more added to our total. Luckily, after the disaster that was Rainbow Road, I had a long win streak of very simple tracks, which includes Amsterdam Drift, Riverside Park, DK Summit, surprisingly enough, Yoshi's Island, Bangkok Rush, and DS Mario Circuit. Waluigi Stadium was also easy enough, as long as you stay on the main road and don't go on the floating platforms. But unfortunately, Singapore Speedway breaks the wave 4 streak that we had, because there's one unavoidable boost panel before the beginning of lap 3, and once again we can't jump over it because of the weird angle. Let's see if we can do 100% for wave 5 instead though. Athens Dash starts off strong by having no significant boost panels in our way. Daisy Cruiser is another boost panel free track with no hassle at all, but unfortunately Moonview Highway has a very long boost panel at the toll booth, and once again you can't jump over it. Okay, so future Bjorn here. I'm editing this video and I made a massive mistake in this section, because while I was scanning through the footage again, I realized this track is actually possible because you can wait for the car with the surfboard and then jump on that surfboard and jump over the boost panel, which is pretty boring to do, but hey, at least this track is possible now, so you have to have a little bit of patience. Well, actually a lot of patience, but it is possible, so that's good news. Anyway, back to the video. Luckily, Squeaky Clean Sprint has no boost panels along your main road, making it easy to complete. Los Angeles Labs has some boost panels on this large skateboarding ramp, but just back the F out of there and the rest of the track won't be a problem at all. Sunset Wilds is also really easy to do without touching boost panels. But unfortunately, Koopa Cape ruins our streak, and it doesn't take a chill at all. Koopa Cape throws two boost panels right at our face the first 5 seconds, and at the end of the underwater tube, it has the freaking nerves to throw 3 more boost panels at us, which across 3 laps sums up to a total of 15 boost panels. Jeez, that is just ridiculous. But sadly, there's nothing we can do about it. So let's just move on, I guess. Fortunately, Vancouver Velocity redeems our sadness and has no problematic boost panels to discuss. Romofanti starts off really well, and all of the boost panels here are really easy to avoid. And DK Mountain surprisingly has no boost panels to worry about. Daisy Circuit has some huge boost panels to avoid, however you can easily drive around them and avoid them completely. Oh, and don't take the shortcut, because it's a trap. Piranha Plant Cove only has 2 boost panels at this section with the thwomps, but they're both easily avoidable. Madrid Drive is also easy, as long as you're not an idiot like I am and don't pay attention and drive straight into the boost panels. And Rosalina's Ice World also has no difficult boost panels to avoid. SNES Bowser Castle 3 has a load of boost panels at this wall section, but by just jumping into the lava at either side of the road, you can completely avoid them. And last but not least, Wii's Rainbow Road. And my god, this track is just cryptic. There's so many boost panels here, and while half of them are easy to avoid, the other half are sadly not. There's one boost panel near the beginning which looks like you you can jump over it, but you can just barely not. There's also this half pipe with a whopping 4 boost panels in front of it, which is sadly unskippable. I tried jumping to the other side on the left, but Laika 2 doesn't allow it. And finally, there's another 3 boost panels on both paths near the end, and unfortunately Laika 2 puts you back when you try to skip them. So across 3 laps, that makes for a total of 24 boost panels, which are unavoidable. Man, that's not a good way to end this challenge, but oh well. So that was it for this challenge. In the entire game, which includes 96 tracks, we had to drive over 86 boost panels, with BjornGmr Road being a track with the most required boost panels, being 24, and a total of 78 tracks that don't require a single boost panel. Damn, that's actually some pretty good scores right there. I really expected more tracks to have boost panels, or just more boost panels in general, but I guess there's not that many in the game. And even though 86 is quite a big number, that final score is actually a lot better than I thought. And man, it was a blast to do this challenge. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was always my favorite Mario Kart game, and the Booster Course Pass only made the game and this challenge even better and much more fun. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and do all that fancy stuff, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.